All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Automox Hands-on IT podcast. We've got a really exciting show today. We're going to be talking about AI and prompt engineering. And I have a special guest with me today. You may recognize him from the Patch Tuesday podcast, where he is a frequent host on that also. But Henry Smith, who is a security engineer at Automox, will be joining us today. Henry, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Henry. As Landon said, security engineer here at Automox. I always struggle with these introductions. I'm like, what do I say I do? Because it kind of changes like all the time. But for the most part, just here working on the security team and trying to build our security program and make it better every single day. So
Yeah, that's one of the best parts of working at Automox. I think it's like someone was like, "Hey, what do you do?" It's like, "Well, today was different than yesterday, which has been different than every other day." So
yeah, I should clarify. I love it. It's not a
yeah, I
complaint.
love it too. I get to, I don't know. I always joke that I explain complex things to people, and that seems to go forward well enough. But yeah, but it's been a great place to work. How long have you been at Automox, and what's your background? How did you get to Automox? We'll do that. I always think that's interesting when people do that on podcasts. I'm going to do that on my podcast. So
Sure, yeah. So, gosh, if my memory serves me well, I think it's been 2 years, maybe over 2 years at this point. It's been a wild roller coaster, as it was my first startup. So,
yeah,
anyone that's worked at a startup knows what it's like. So, I had a lot of growing pains to do there, but I forget what your other question was.
oh, how did you get here, and what was your path to getting to Automox, whether through college or kind of have you always been in the cybersecurity industry?
All right. Every time someone asks me this, I feel like I always talk way too long, so I'm gonna try to keep this short. Long story short, I started out growing up as a huge computer nerd and loved IT, information technology. Got my first IT job pretty much right out of high school. I tried college, it wasn't for me. So I don't have a degree, so I
Yeah,
kind of just have always been career driven. Worked for a couple MSPs throughout my time, and eventually at one of the MSPs, I was bit by the security bug, as I like to say. And ever since then, I took my first security course, got a certification, and kind of everything after that, it just kind of exploded from there. And
yeah,
my first security job actually ended up back at a previous job where I was a technical support engineer, and they brought me in as kind of like an entry level security engineer, and
that's
and
awesome.
that's kind of been my journey, and here I am.
Yeah, I think that's actually what we're talking about in next month's podcast too, is kind of career paths. And college really isn't for everyone, and
Right.
I tried college for a while too, and then didn't it started working and ended up going back to college. Shout out Arizona State. Actually, have never been on campus, but I went online, and for some reason, that's what worked for my brain, is being able to fast forward and rewind lectures instead of having to sit still in a sit still in a classroom for a while. Um, it only took me, let's see, 11 years to graduate college, but hey, you know what? I did it. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, between the first try and then the second try. And yeah, it was like, yeah, which we'll go into this in another podcast, getting a little off topic too, but just go for my career advice, go for what you're good at, not for what you think you should be doing.
And what you love too.
Yeah,
And just one little piece, networking, because
yeah,
I truly don't think that I would be where I am today. I don't even think I would have my first security job if I didn't already have connections at that company.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
it's so important to network, but I
And
digress.
just like, yeah, yeah. The other thing we talk about a lot on this podcast is that most of us are in IT or security because computers are the easy part, but it's the intersection of people and computers is what we do.
Right.
But just being able to talk to people and not completely overwhelm them with technical information in the first, like, it's like, hey, I'm going to come fix your computer, I'm going to go through this registry key, but just being like, hey, like, I'm not sure what's going on here, we're going to get you fixed up though, is a lot better. Just having those people skills and networking skills is critically important, like you said. But off topic a little bit, come back next month if you want to hear more about this, because that's what we're going to be talking about. Because almost everyone at Automox that I work with has had kind of a non-standard career journey, whether it's Ryan, who was in a rock band and got his degree in the back of a van on tour, or Henry, or anybody out here, Tom and Jason, who were in the military for a long time and then went into cyber command and stuff. But it's always, there's no one right way to go after
Yeah.
your career. And that's one thing I love about the IT industry, is that if you're good at it, you can prove yourself, and you don't have to be like, look at this piece of paper I have. So
Right. Look at all this money that I've spent. I mean, no
yeah,
offense to anyone that I want to say that, like, I think continuing education and in college is important if it's the right
yeah,
thing for you.
yeah. And I mean, it's not like I'm not good at sitting down and doing things for long periods of time, and like especially sitting through a lecture. Like,
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I think I slept through most of my lectures the first time I went to college. But tell you what, if you go back to college as an adult and actually do the homework and listen to the lectures, it's a lot easier. So, but yeah. Anyways, I digress. Back to
Back to
AI.
AIs.
Back to AI. So no one's gonna need college here. But anyways, we'll go. So all right, prompt engineering. So prompt engineering. Think I like what is it? I like to think of it kind of like talking to my kids or a young kid. Like, you talk to your kids differently than I would talk to Henry or someone else that's highly technical. So the way we talk to these AI systems matters, and it can shape the output. Um, Henry, kind of, you want to add anything on that? What are your thoughts on prompt engineering?
I would say, yes, I agree with what you said, and I would tack on that it's like good prompt engineering is like the difference between working with someone that's on their first day at the job and someone that's been there for a while. They've
Yeah,
received training, they have context to do the job in a way that follows conventions and standards that are already in place. So, yes, it's
yeah,
important.
absolutely. So we were talking about this a little bit before the show, and I always kind of think of it. We used to read these books when I was in elementary school that were Amelia Bedelia, and she took everything very literally. So it's like, hey, she was a maid, and it was like, hey, will you go draw the curtains? And she like gets out a notebook and draws a picture of the curtains. And I kind of think of prompting AI as similar to that, where it either can take things literally or in the wrong direction and cause a lot more work for you. Um, that's kind of how I like to think about it. Is like, okay, like, if I'm describing what I want, the constraints I need, everything you need, we'll go that way. And the common guide a lot of times has been like, treat AI as your junior developer, give it as much context as possible. So that's a great way. I don't 100% agree with this. My theory is to kind of prompt the AI as if someone was asking you to do something and what you would want, instead of like, hey, let's go do this. And I mean, there's kind of this breakdown of like, hey, AI understands what you're talking about. A lot of times when we're explaining things to other people, we kind of sugarcoat it or make it a little bit easier to understand. It's like, no, like, it understands this technical term I'm going to use. That's an industry standard one. Sometimes if it's a technical term that you made up, it's not going to understand it. But like, being able to talk to it in a way that you would talk to yourself, or push to another developer or a junior developer, that's kind of the advice that I would give. Henry, kind of, I'll let you run on that one a little bit too. Is there anything?
Yeah, so kind of like what you were saying, if you ask someone to perform a task and you didn't give them any context, what would they do? Chances are they would likely ask questions either to you or someone else to try and get more context, or they would do some research to try to get that
Yeah.
context themselves. And I feel the AI agents, especially, are very similar in the job.
Mhm.
tends to get done faster and better if the right context and information is there to accomplish that task.
Yeah,
So,
and this kind of goes for anything you're using an AI for. We're kind
yeah.
of going to be mainly talking about creating and generating code with AI, but like if you're trying to write a creative novel or whatever you're working on, a blog post or anything, like being able to give it the information that you want and kind of have an idea of what you want the output to be, um, is critical in making it work the way you want it to and not cause more work for you.
Right, and I've also found that it's helpful to, at the end of your instructions, say, if you have clarifying questions, please
Yeah,
ask them.
that
So that
is.
way it doesn't assume things, because back to your point earlier, if you're trying to explain something to someone and they don't know what it is, they also might try to make an assumption about what you're talking
Mhm.
about. And I feel like, again, AI works very similarly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the yeah, so a lot of the more advanced models, like I think ChatGPT, OpenAI's O3 model, if you're doing deep research, if you prompt it, it will come back and say, "Hey, what about this, this, and this? Which direction do you want me to run?" So it's getting better at asking questions, but being able to kind of guide it in the way that you want it to is still critically important. And I mean, in a lot of times you can use AI to get feedback on your prompts too. And it's like, hey, like I'm writing this prompt. This is what I'm thinking. What areas do I need to improve to make this more clear?
Uh,
And it'll come back with something. Sometimes it just starts the prompt and starts doing that, but I think that might be my problem too. But yeah, that's just kind of being able to bounce that idea off of someone or off of an AI system, an LLM, is great for that feedback loop to make your prompts better, make the outputs from these LLMs better too.
Definitely.
But yeah, and then the other thing that, especially code related, that I've used AI a lot for, and I think is a really good use of AI, is explaining code sections. Henry, have you used it that, or like finding a bug or stuff? Just like, hey, explain this code section for me. Why is it working this way? Give me an outline. Or what are
I
your
could talk about this for a long time because I've been experimenting with it a lot.
yeah.
Yes, I've definitely used it for exactly that purpose. Say, hey, what is this code doing? What is it? What does it actually mean? What are these things talking to? How are they talking to each other? What are they saying? Just getting
Mhm.
down to that nitty gritty detail, especially if I haven't seen a code base before. If it's my
Yeah.
first time I'm seeing it, I found it is so helpful to just say, hey, tell me what you know about this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the AI model that I've been using a lot is Anthropic's Claude Code recently.
Yes.
And it can drop into a code base and you can say, hey, tell me about this code base. And it can look at the file, go look at its subscripts or any references, and kind of give you a really good overview and understand that option too. And then understand that code and give you an overview of what's going on with it and how it works. And that's been incredibly useful to me in my job. But the next area is generating code and auditing code and hardening code. And so, Henry, I know that you've been doing a lot of experimentation with that lately. So you want to
Yes.
kind of dive into those concerns and security concerns for code and AI generated code. And
Yes. So I'll kind of take it a step back a little bit and go back to the context piece.
yeah.
Again, context really is king when it comes to working with LLMs. It really is the difference between working with a newbie and someone that's been there for a while.
Hmm.
I've personally seen a significant difference in what something like Claude Code will output when you give it context and when you don't. In the past few days, just here at Automox, I've been experimenting. So, for example, I had it create a backend for a microservice, and I gave it very generic instructions like, I want this thing and I want it to do XYZ. Please build it. And I'll admit the results were okay. Like, they were pretty impressive, but they weren't great. They didn't,
Yeah.
the code didn't follow the kind of standards and conventions that we have here at Automox. And it really just kind of assumed and did its best job. After that, I cleared out all the context around the conversation so we had a fresh slate. Then I pulled in an AI, or I pulled in AI agent instructions, like from a markdown file with a
Hmm.
bunch of information around our coding standards, both related to and unrelated to security and our conventions, and really just context around how we engineer here at Automox. After I did that, I asked Claude the same question, but I was very specific and I said, use this file for context. And the output was astoundingly
Yeah.
improved from the last iteration, like amazingly. And I've been experimenting with this too for PR reviews. And
Hmm.
again, I've found that it's not really a useful tool unless you provide it some sort of context that a human being would need themselves to be effective.
Yeah.
So, if you were to ask, like, hey, you know, coworker, can you please review my code? They're going to pull up your code. And if they don't have any context around what you're working on, they're going to struggle to review the code.
Yeah. It's the
Right.
difference between being like, "Hey, mom, can you review this code?" And her being like, "It looks like code. Like, I don't know anything about this," versus like going to an experienced developer at your company that has the background in what your company is doing and saying, "Can you review this code?" And like, okay, I don't know. I like to think of it as put your mind in a markdown file. Everything you know about this that is specific to the company or the specific to the project you're working on, give it those instructions and then push forward. So letting it know kind of what you're saying, like letting it know what you're working on, the background of this, what it's supposed to be doing, how it interacts with other things can significantly change the output and the quality of your code. And I like to often I will my workflow lately with some of the stuff I've been working on is it's like, okay, let's get something that works. It doesn't have to be the best, but like I want this. And sometimes I'll do it or have like a wire diagram or something that's like, okay, this works. It sends the data to the right spot. It sends it to this database. It looks at it. It's like, okay, this is how I want it to work. Optimize this, make it yeah, so telling it to optimize the code, telling it to harden the code, looking at these things, it will kind of often, this is what I want it to look like, this is how I want it to work. Okay, I understand that. It will take that and be like, okay, well, we're going to harden this section, we're going to batch the writes to the database on this section so that it'll speed it up, and so you're not waiting 30 minutes for 20 records to be written or whatever it is. That's really slow database times, but
Right.
so but any just kind of having it optimize things is that's how I've been using it a lot lately. Is like, this is what it should do. This is barely working, but it works. Make it work better. And but so kind of on the security review side of things, also, do you want to touch on that a little bit too, or you want to kind of actually I'll let you finish what you were saying about the code quality of prompting if you had anything else to add on that.
Well, no, I feel like they kind of go hand in hand a little
Yeah.
bit. So, back to the whole context thing and the agent AI instructions. So first of all, a lot of these agents will actually produce a file for you if you don't have one already. So Claude is a great example. If you just do slash init,
Hmm.
it'll go through your code base. I'm pretty sure it'll even look at like git logs and things like that, whatever it needs to build context and information around your code base and your repository.
Yeah.
And so I've been experimenting with that. And what I've been doing for security things is I've been adding like directives to it. So just a little
Hmm.
section in there that is specifically just bullet points, just 1 or 2 sentence bullet points with, like, you will validate all user input.
Yeah.
Um, things like that. You will validate that, like, a requester, has proper access to the resource that they're trying to access.
Hmm.
Just having those directives in there, Claude, for example, can actually use that context in an automated PR review, and it can say, "Hey, I know you have these code standards here and you have these secure coding standards,
Yeah.
and it looks like you're not following them here. What do
What's up,
you,
man? So yeah.
yes. And you can even go as far as to categorize each of those directives to say this is a must and this is a should.
Hmm.
So when Claude's reviewing, it'll say, hey, you have this as should, so I'm just gonna like put like a yellow bang, like a warning here. Or if it's like must, it's a critical warning, and
Yeah.
you can have it give severities to the things it finds. Like it's infinitely customizable.
Yeah.
And
And the other way I've been using it too sometimes is like, hey, like, do a security audit. Like, is there any sections of this code segment right here that could be exploited that I could harden? And oftentimes it'll come back and say, hey, like, validate the input. The input validation right here can be beefed up a little bit. You can add a lot more to that, or like look for any SQL injection problems here if you're writing to a database, and it's like, okay, I can do that. It's like, let's do that. And then my favorite is, I don't know. Sometimes was working with Claude Code and was like, hey, I was trying to troubleshoot a issue of why something wasn't working correctly. And it's like, well, it looks like you did this and this isn't working. It's like, wait a second. You wrote this code,
you
Claude.
don't
Like,
do
this
that.
is on
Yeah,
you. This is on you. I didn't do that. So
yeah.
yeah. Like, you go fix your stuff, man. So like, but yeah, so that's been, yeah. So just kind of hardening and analyzing code. And I mean, as humans, we're limited in the way that we can think about things and the way that we see things and in our knowledge base. But being able to just go out to someone has an AI system who can scan through it quickly and say, yes, this looks like it's up to your standards, or no, this isn't up to your standards, is whether, I mean, it's not necessarily going to replace you. I mean, it still has to have that human oversight, but like, it's an incredibly powerful tool for that. So
Yeah, and now that you touched on that, I want to say I'm not advocating for no manual reviews and just rely on AI to
yeah,
review PRs, but I am advocating for leverage AI to help to
yeah,
review those.
it's kind of like, vibe coding is a term that's come up a lot, and to me that means is like, I'm gonna have an AI build something and I'm gonna have no idea how it works, and
Send it,
I'm gonna send it and we're gonna see what happens. And like, don't do that. If anything
especially in
is,
production.
yeah, especially in production, if you're just developing something to test out, that is fine. But if it's in production, like, don't do that. So,
Yeah.
which kind of goes like vibe coding versus assisted coding. Like, those are two different methods of doing things, where I'm using AI as an assistant to make me more productive. I can review these things faster. I can sometimes find errors that I would overlook versus just saying, "Yep, AI said it's good. Let's send it." That's yeah,
Yes, 100%. And again, just want to say it all comes down to having that context and
yeah,
telling the AI, I want you to look for access control issues and
hmm,
et cetera, et cetera. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but
no,
I
I
want to
think
say how,
this dead horse needs to be beat. So
yes, like context is king. If you
it
want good
is,
results, you have to provide it.
yeah, and yeah, it's so interesting to see, like, go experiment with this on your own time, but go write a really bad prompt and then spend like 10 minutes to write something really good and compare the outputs. And it's remarkably different. And
I
um,
have a perfect example of this internally, and I bet you we could maybe share it if we were going to do a blog that supplements
yeah,
this.
we might have to do a blog on this then. So,
Yeah, 'cause I have a perfect example of that where I took a screenshot of a prompt where I was like, make me an ice cream cone, and I didn't give it any context, and it made
yeah,
the most horrendous thing. And then giving it a much better prompt, it actually output an ice cream cone that
yeah,
was very well put together. So
I love it. I love it. And I mean, I think across any kind of AI, also, whether that's code generation, image generation, or anything, like, being able to give it context to what you want being able to kind of know what you want before you go in there is critical. So
That's another thing too, is especially if you're trying to be conscious of your token usage.
yeah.
If that's another place where context and good prompt engineering helps, is save you money, because if the AI has to make assumptions about what you want and then you have to go back and fix them, you're going to spend more
Yeah, it
tokens than
costs
you
money.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the other thing I wanted to chat about a little bit too is context window. So especially with token based AI systems like Claude or other things, I mean even with ChatGPT or any of those systems, there's a context window. There's only so much information that it can process. Um, so staying within that context window is important. I mean, so I think that the latest one is, I mean, it's getting much larger, but it's still something to be cognizant of. And like it can only understand so much of my code base. Like I'm not going to just say, here's this 10 million line code base, figure out everything about it and go fix all the problems. Like that's not how it works. Being able to get to the smaller sections that you want it to analyze, and analyzing kind of more specific problems, it's really efficient at. But you can run out of context window. I mean, and we've been talking about Claude a lot because that's what we've been using a lot. But even that one at the bottom of it, it'll say, "Hey, you've got like 20% left until I'm going to start auto compressing stuff." And but just that context window is how much memory it can hold about what you're talking to it about in one spot. So you start to lose efficiencies if you're having to explain something multiple times. So like if I explain this once really well, you can keep running with it and not have to ask more questions, and that collapse that window of memory. So
Yes, and that is where the AI kind of instruction set that I was referring to
yeah.
earlier really helps and comes into play. And if you can even centralize, so going back thinking just like an engineering department, if you can
Mhm.
go back, if you can centralize those AI instructions as well to
Yeah.
be consumed, that might help the context window problem a little bit. And one thing I've been doing too, just personally experimenting, is when I'm done with a session, I'll say, "Hey,
Yeah.
Claude, write basically note everything we did in this like context.md as markdown
Hmm.
file and put everything in there." And then if I close the session and come back to it later, I'll say, "Hey,
Look
load
at
that
this to see what
file."
you did last time. So yeah.
Yes, and then it actually will help me fix this other bug I found so
Yeah.
much faster than it would if it had to re-understand the code base.
Everything. Yeah. And then you have to tell it the same things over and again. And if you don't, if another thing that you can experiment with to our listeners is, if you have a chat gpt subscription, you can create a custom gpt. You can put that context window in there, and that's something that's kind of
Oh,
a lower entryway than necessarily trying to figure out the command line interface of Claude. But if you just kind of want to play with something, that's a really good area to play with. You can say, use these instructions, this is my instructions, this is my style guide, or this is what tone I want it to use. And you can practice kind of prompting it. If you get something that's really good in that, you can, that's being able to prompt it. You can go back and forth and test it and see how it reacts to having those instructions or not, or modifying those instructions and how that works. So if you kind of want to practice with this and practice kind of building out those content windows or content instructions, that's really what I would recommend kind of as a starting point. If you just want to play with something, is go build a custom GPT in OpenAI's ChatGPT web platform. That's a fairly low barrier to entry. So
I agree. I think that's good advice. And honestly, if you haven't been experimenting with I think you really should start,
yeah,
because it's
absolutely. And
it's
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 fun.
blowing up.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's kind of like the internet. It's just a fad. So I'm just
Yeah, and
kidding.
there's
Yeah,
I it's funny though. It's like there's almost no end in sight.
yeah.
It's like you see this. The latest model comes out, and it promises all these amazing things that the other one doesn't. And
Hmm.
then sometime later, oh, this other model is now out, and it promises even more, and
Yeah,
it's even better. And like it
yeah.
seems
And
like
it's
the velocity is just nonstop.
It is, and like a lot of the, it's interesting because a lot of the promises from these AI companies, like, yeah, no, it's not going to do that for me, but like it can do this really well for me. It can help. It's like kind of cutting through the marketing stuff and be like, well, I could use it for this. That sounds really interesting, and like just reading through that and kind of coming up with ideas of how you could use it or play with it, and like don't go spend $200 a month for the whatever it is for OpenAI's top tier subscription, but you can do the custom GPTs. I think with the I think it's
with the
20
plus.
bucks a month or whatever the, I think you
Yeah,
have to pay them a little bit for it, but like if you're really wanting to go play with it and learn AI, and like you just go play with it. And like that's my advice is like see what you can do. Go have fun. So but and
I would
there's
echo the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, there's I don't know, there's not too much that like I asked it to help me come up with a recipe. I was like, I got this stuff in my fridge. Like, what can you do? What can I do with this? And turned out really good. So, but
Awesome.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can just kind of experiment with, have fun, like go play with it, see what you can do. And that's I don't know, that's kind of my ethos with anything that I find interesting. Is like, well, how can I play with this? So
Yes.
yeah,
Hands-on learning is my also my approach too. I just like I gotta
yeah.
try. I gotta
It's like I
experiment.
gotta try it, gotta push all the buttons and see what happens. So like
Right, and I need to get burned or like I need to yeah. So
yeah. It's like
I
that didn't
understand
work
you.
out very well. This worked out good. It was fun. Like, but yeah,
Yeah.
so it's yeah, go play with it. That's our advice, I guess. So,
Yes.
but yeah, also Henry wrote a really interesting blog a couple of weeks ago, actually earlier this week, I believe, that is on about a Splunk integration with Automox. So go check that out. He did a great job writing that one, and kind of for more of stuff that Henry's been working on. And um, but yeah, is there anything else you've been working on AI wise and security wise that you want to share?
I think I kind of shared everything there. Just we actually started a working group here at
Yeah,
Automox, and so part of that is really been everything I've said earlier, everything
yeah,
I talked about earlier with just experimenting and
and it's
really, really
yeah,
trying to think about our developers and like the development process, and we want them to use the tool, but we want to make it as easy as possible to adopt in the
mhm,
safest way possible. So I'm trying
yeah,
to find that balance. So I would say that's one thing I've been working on.
yeah, and it's I will say that it's one of the most interesting things about AI to me is seeing how other people use it. It's like, wow, that's a really interesting way. I never would have thought of that. Or like, and it's just kind of this back and forth. And then you share something that you've been doing and they have the same reaction. And it's this kind of, it's a, yeah, find someone else that's using AI a lot, talk with them, see how they're using it, and you'll be impressed. There's a lot of fun things you can do with it, and it never gets tired of answering your weird questions or answering building strange things for you, or it's bouncing ideas off of. Is It's kind of like the, I don't know, like when your kid is like, hey, I've got this question, I've got this question, I've got this question, and you're like, I don't know the answer to any of these, but with AI, you can just keep going with all sorts of random rabbits, like the ultimate Wikipedia rabbit hole is what AI.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, Henry, thanks so much for hopping on this podcast, and be sure to look out for him on the Patch Tuesday podcast. I'm Landon Miles. This is Hands on IT, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.